We are days away from the Diddy trial, and now we're hearing this. He lacked the mental capacity to commit crimes?
Now, Diddy has a new defense. We talked about this yesterday, but Puff has a new defense right now that I think is pretty interesting. So
what did he say? Never ask permission for taking things.
Stop.
What did he say?
I didn't even think about how those kind of relate. No. So what he's saying is that he was not in control of his mental capacity. So there's no way he could have committed those crimes.
Insanity.
Yes.
Good defense.
No, it's not.
When all else fails, just play dumb. I was crazy. I'm retarded, Your Honor.
You're not supposed to say that word. So Diddy is saying that he lacked mental capacity to commit crimes. Now, here's what is happening. So his team is saying, look, I know that y'all are alleging that there were these crazy parties and these crazy acts that went down, and all these people are saying that they were drugged and there were drinks that were given to them or whatever. But our client also may have been under the influence of something that allowed him to not control his actions. Now, in the documents that were obtained by TMZ reported this exclusively, and the documents that were obtained, they redact what his mental issue was that messed with his capacity, but in other lines they talk about things that have to do with like drinking and alcohol. So it's you putting two together here.
But you know why that's not a good defense? Because you still made a choice to do those drugs. You still made a choice to drink that alcohol.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Celeb Central Buzz, your go-to source for legal breakdowns of the biggest celebrity trials. Today we're diving into major developments in the Sean Diddy Combs sex crimes case, as federal prosecutors push back hard against a controversial defense strategy. So let's get into it. Sean Combs, known globally as Diddy, is facing multiple federal charges, including racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation with intent to engage in prostitution. These charges come amidst a wave of civil lawsuits and disturbing allegations, stretching back over decades. His trial is scheduled to begin with jury selection on May 5th in the Southern District of New York. But right now, the spotlight is on a key pretrial battle, whether Diddy's team can use a mental condition defense to avoid criminal liability. Diddy's legal team wants to call Dr. Elie Aoun, a forensic psychiatrist, as an expert witness to argue that Diddy had diminished capacity during the time of the alleged crimes. That's a legal term meaning he may not have been mentally capable of forming the criminal intent, or mens rea, required to be found guilty. Under federal law, diminished capacity is an extremely narrow defense. It doesn't excuse the crime entirely, but can be used to argue that the defendant lacked the specific intent necessary for conviction. This comes from a long line of case law, including United States versus Pohlot, which limits how and when this kind of testimony can be used.
You still made a choice to do those things. So you
numerous times. Yeah, it's not like it's a one shot and done, right?
That's right. So you still have to be responsible for your actions under the influence. You don't get in a car drunk and then wreck and kill somebody and, they let you off just because you was drunk. No, you made the choice to drink. You made the choice to drink and drive.
And also, too, it's not, just legally speaking, prosecutors are shooting back on this. And this is how, the reporters know that drugs and alcohol are part of the conversation of what Diddy's claiming, is because prosecutors responded in the document and they said, listen, there's rules that say you got to let us know that y'all are going to be trying to claim that the evidence of drugs and alcohol as an effect to you or what you're about to lean on. You guys didn't do that in enough time. So you can't tell us that it was drugs and alcohol. And they also supposed to be bringing this doctor or have this doctor in conversation that's supposed to be testifying to what Diddy's team is claiming. And prosecutors are like, he ain't never even examined them.
The drug and alcohol defense is also a terrible defense when you have people who are saying, yes, you drugged me and you gave me alcoholic drinks and like all of that. You're kind of what's the word? Validating their point.
Or deflecting.
Not even deflecting. You're validating what they said about you. If you said, hey, he drugged me he gave me drugs, and
It's
then
like, 'cause
took
it was
advantage
already
of me.
there.
Yes. So you're saying, oh yeah, I was taking those same drugs, and I was on that alcohol too, so I was out of it. Yes, we were all out of it together.
I just think it's horrible too, and it's really vague, because if you saying you was in this allegedly drug or alcohol induced haze or whatever, you don't know what happened. That's a big gray area for an attorney to lean in on. So as the defenses fall, we will continue to cover them.
Federal prosecutors are arguing that Diddy's team submitted this expert witness too late, violating rules, under Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 12.2, which requires early disclosure for mental condition defenses. They also say Dr. Aoun never actually examined Combs, and is instead basing his opinions on secondhand evidence, much of which has been redacted from court filings. They're concerned that Aoun's testimony could be used as a backdoor way to introduce statements that wouldn't otherwise be allowed in court, or worse, to appeal to the jury's emotions. Prosecutors even stated in their motion filed on April 27th that this kind of testimony could lead to juror admiration or sympathy, something that federal rules are specifically designed to avoid. This isn't the only expert witness fight happening in the lead-up to trial. Just days earlier, on April 25th, the court heard arguments about whether psychologist Dr. Dawn Hughes could testify for the prosecution. If her name sounds familiar, that's because she also testified in the high-profile Johnny Depp-Amber Heard defamation trial. In this case, Judge Aaron Subramanian ruled that Dr. Hughes can speak about coping mechanisms that victims of abuse use and why they might remain in abusive relationships. However, she is not allowed to use the phrase coercive control, which is viewed as too speculative for this trial. Meanwhile, Combs' defense plans to counter with their own expert, Dr. Alexander Barty, a psychiatrist who disagrees with Hughes's interpretation of patterns in abusive relationships. His testimony would likely challenge the idea that certain behaviors point to guilt, aiming instead to raise doubts about Diddy's state of mind and intent. All of this points to a central theme in Diddy's defense strategy, arguing that he lacked the mental state necessary to be found guilty of the charges. In federal court, mental condition defenses are extremely limited due to what judges often call the strong danger of misuse. That means if Combs' team can't meet the strict standards, this line of defense could be thrown out entirely. The next pretrial hearing is scheduled for later this week, where the judge will decide whether Dr. Aoun can testify. Jury selection begins May 5th, and from there, the courtroom drama really begins. What do you think? Should expert witnesses like Dr. Aoun be allowed to testify without having directly evaluated the defendant? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for real-time trial coverage. I'll be breaking it down every step of the way. See you in the next video.